The Ocean Grand Prix Championship arrives in Malta for its very first round and renews an association between this historic and picturesque island and powerboat racing, which goes back almost a decade.
So you've got a great backdrop also of fortifications, beautiful blue sea, loads of churches and domes and castles, and so I think it's a great backdrop for any start to any race.
Ocean Grand Prix is a brand new championship, but its competitors are experienced crews who can't wait to get their boats back in the water.
So it's been a long journey to get here, but we're here. This has been the home of Ocean Grand Prix as well. I think it's a perfect venue, and the first race is always the best.
After 7 months doing nothing, just polishing the boat and the propellers, now we have a real water.
We have worked very hard during the winter. Now we are waiting for the results.
It's really good to be back to Malta. It's one of my favourite venues. We've been coming here now for 8 years. The people really look after us.
After 8 or 9 months, I'm very, very glad we can start.
The championship has come together largely thanks to support from the still vibrant Maltese economy, which is in part driven by the kind of sports tourism that Ocean Grand Prix represents. There are two classes of competition in Ocean Grand Prix, and we start with the super sports, which are essentially just that. Standard boats you can buy from a manufacturer with standard engines that are also available from the boat builder's catalogue. Minimum and maximum length is also specified, and these boats are limited to 85 miles an hour in competition, with penalties for going faster, putting the emphasis on skill. So, on Friday afternoon, as the holidaymakers relaxed around Valletta Harbour, the business of pole position got underway. The Italian RG87 racing team's Carol Pugh first to try the 2.5-mile practice lap in anger. Practice had already shown that the harbour itself was pretty much flat, but the skill in ocean racing is dealing with the bit that comes next. And Malta is well known for the heavier seas outside the harbour entrance, providing a much more severe challenge to the crews, and that's one of the things they all enjoy about coming here to race. They start their qualifying runs at intervals. Second away, another all-Italian crew in Jolly Drive, the only diesel boat racing this weekend. Allowed a bigger engine capacity than a petrol boat, but top speed is limited for all of them, so it's all about finesse and skill rather than just about brute power. The RG87 crew have been together a while and collected their class championship last season, and that ought to make them favourites. Jolly Drive making good time in the water, and on the run out it's hard to split them. Carol Pugh finishes its run, and now you really can see the contrast between conditions on the ocean and in the harbour. That's a set-up problem for everyone. Through the line, 2:23.86 and no penalties. That's the benchmark for the others to aim at. Jolly Drive still looking fast, but perhaps not quite as flat on the water as Carol Pugh. It's meant to be up on the plane, but nose down, which is easier than it sounds. Here's the third boat out, and it's the third make as well. This is a Dongzi, and it's also the shortest of the three at 38 feet. Carol Pugh is a Fountain 42. And Jolly Drive here is also 42 by Albatro International. Still looking like it has the potential for pole, but the stopwatch will tell everything as it heads back in. And here we go over the line, and the clock stops at 2:25, a couple of seconds down on Carol Pugh. So, Bayer Atolini, the SIF boat here, and being the shortest of the three, it might find the steeper seas outside the harbour a bit more difficult to deal with than the longer boats, and it's looking like that will show up on the stopwatch. And it is another couple of seconds down. It's third place, putting the Carol Pugh crew on pole position. So let's have a look at the official times confirmed after the scrutineering checks. And as you can see from this, it was a close thing for Carol Pugh, but that's pole.
It's very strong because in official practice, I broke the gear, and the return in the harbor changed very quickly the gear. And after go for pole position, and I make it pole position. I'm very happy.
As the name suggests, the Evo class is more or less the unlimited category for purer race boats. There are limits on hull size once again and on engine capacity, but the big worry for all the teams is the DPO to weight ratio. That's declared power output to weight, which is measured by weighing and by the data from mandatory torque sensors. There's a minimum post-race weight and zero tolerance on the DPO weight ratio of 1 horsepower per 3.5 kilos. Brand new in every way this weekend is the Lucas Oil Scandinavian Offshore Challenge entry. It's a new design by Ocker Manafelt and has been created to follow natural form and function.
If you look in nature for the fast birds and the fast fishes, they've done a good job. We're trying to do almost the same as you can see in this boat. It's very sleek, it's very aerodynamic. The most important thing is that the crew feel safe. They should be confident, safe, and have that feeling, because the only thing they have to do is win a race. And this boat, first time out, was perfect. We have started from the beginning to take the exhaust down under the transom, and it's as quiet as a normal, proper, good boat, and we don't lose any energy at all. We take the advantage we see on this boat with the transfer steps, the aerating, the aerodynamics, and put that in a normal boat for normal people, and it actually works.
And just in case you thought the traditions of the sea were being set aside for a race boat this modern, you're wrong, and the boat was christened with champagne. And good luck to all who sail in her. Even though it's a small field for the opening round of this brand new championship, the Evo class runs separately to the Super Sports. The start order for qualifying picked at random this weekend, putting the all-new Lucas Oil crew out first. This qualifying run watched with interest by the other competitors to see how the new boat will perform. Perhaps not so much here in the calmer waters of the Grand Harbour, but further out, where the wind fetches up a bit more of a sea. The Silverhook hull is the longest of them all, right out there at the class maximum of 48 feet. It's designed for this kind of water specifically, but if there is such a thing as a pre-event favourite, then you're looking at it now. The Belgian to-be-won team in Fernebo, shortest of the Evo class boats here this weekend, a Fountain 40, also the lightest as well. Looking good inside the harbour, but maybe not so fast outside. The Lucas Oil was designed for rougher waters. The starting point for designer Ocker Manafelt was the team specification that there be more rough than smooth over the course of a season. Third away, starting at intervals again. This is the big C-Rex boat, Siggy Grieve at the wheel and Belgian Douglas Furbank on throttles. Flat in the harbour, but look at Lucas Oil on the way back and you can see how these two functions quite literally perform a balancing act, throttle and wheel, keeping the boat fast and flat. But will it be fast? That's the time, 2:02.56, and that's the fourth boat to take up the pole challenge. Racing Silverline, Drew Langdon on throttles, Miles Jennings, the driver. And look at how the water changes as they head out of the Grand Harbour, a real impression of how bouncy it is out here. It gets heavier further out. Look, here's Fernebo at the turn, the entire hull clear of the water. Frank Hammerlock closing the throttles when it's airborne watch. You don't want to over-rev the engines, and you really want to be in the water as much as possible because, of course, there's no propulsion with the prop in the air, so it costs time to be airborne between the crests. Settling down a bit now as it's heading home. The finish line back inside the Grand Harbour alongside the start, 2:02, the target time set by Nigel Hook and Michael Silverberg in the Lucas Oil Scandinavian Offshore Challenge. Here's the stopwatch, and it's 6/10 faster. So it's a close call, but Fernebo heads the field for a pole position that will place it closest to the start boat on Saturday afternoon as C-Rex heads for calmer waters, and the finish line that will tell us how it matches up to the front-running pace of the two boats, which have just sent near identical times, just over the 2-minute mark, both about 20 seconds quicker than the Super Sports. What's it going to be for C-Rex? Just slightly off that pace by a couple of seconds. And Silverline's off plane and cruising. Clearly mechanical troubles there and no time recorded on this outing. And that puts C-Rex on the outside of the start line on Saturday, and that could be important, and so could the conditions, which might be tough.
I hope it will be rough again on the ocean. And today it was flat, just at the corners it was quite rough, but I like it. Then you have to drive a boat, so otherwise it's cruising, and I like rough water also.
It's the first and shortest of the weekend's two races in 24 hours for the crew, but much less for us. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.